So hello my dear brothers and boys, today we will play as the base state known as Switzerland. And instead of taking part in the stupid European wars, killing millions of people and destroying the infrastructure, no, we won't do that today. But instead, we will make our country rich, prosperous and neutral. Today I'll prove you that small state like Switzerland can become economically prosperous and get lots of military factories and civilian factories starting almost from nothing. And along with that we will build a strong army so no one decides to attack us and take our rich lands. Without further ado, let's start our neutral journey. At first, I'm putting all my efforts into economy, so we will produce even more equipment, we will get more fuel and build even more factories, infrastructure and bunkers. Of course, in case if something goes wrong with the world. First things first, issues of the day. The referendums are waiting for us. For many issues of public importance in Switzerland, the people are allowed to vote in nationwide referendums where the outcome is determined by popular vote. Focusing our efforts on their issues will ensure that we will tackle the societal problems that people find important in their daily lives. We also have a ruling coalition in the state which is formed by market liberals, social conservatives and authoritarian democrats. We could also align with the social liberals, but they are closer to leftists rather to rightists, and now we've got a fully right coalition in Switzerland. I think it brings stability and prosperity to our state. However, we always need to remember about the balance of power, since it's the basis of democracy and it is the basis of Swiss state, which was found in 1848 as a new confederation. The last war in which we took part was Napoleonic Wars, which happened over 100 years ago, and we don't need to take part in any other conflict. We had enough of these wars. This video isn't about just a neutral Switzerland, it's about how the whole world should live. Always remember that wars are a bad thing, and I know what am I talking about. Because I live in a country which is currently in a war, and I know how bad the war is. House in Savoy. With French support and the lax military presence in the region, French supporters have managed to steer unrest in Savoy, and the administration will be forced to spare extra resources to maintain the peace. We must maintain a stronger military presence if we are to keep the region stable. Honestly, I would like to give it back to the French communes since it's not a legitimate part of Switzerland and we just want to live in the land that is only ours. As we don't want to keep any piece of a foreign state, only Swiss lands. Black Monday. Mein Gott! That's a truly bad event. So each referendum will be held according to the list and is placed in the focus tree line. We will start with the official languages. This referendum presented to the Swiss people details plan to include Romansh as an official language in Switzerland. Including Romansh as an official language would serve to include those who have previously felt as outcasts into the national government. Sounds pretty good. If I recall correctly, Romansh became the fourth official language in Switzerland right after German, French and Italian. Greetings to everyone who is watching me from Switzerland, and if you watch this video, please tell me something interesting about your country in the comments below. I would be really glad to read some new information about such a great state, as I'm a big fan of Switzerland and its neutrality. Yeah, the Black Monday hit Switzerland. The horror. Oh yeah, construction speed minus 50%. That's not what I expected to see. Oops, farmers hit by Black Monday. With the German economy in free fall, the prices of many agricultural goods have fallen with it. Swiss farmers, heavily reliant on trade with Germany, have been hit hard almost overnight, and many have taken into the streets to protest the government's inaction over the issue. The BGB, who represents the interest of many Swiss farmers and social conservatives, have begun wavering in their commitment to the current governing alliance of conservative and market liberal parties. Why are you rising against us? It's not our problem, but we will try to solve it and do our best. Yep, that's not good. As we expected, conservatives and authoritarian democrats leaves the bourgeoisie bloc. We are in a precarious situation, with Switzerland's greatest political parties beginning to fight amongst themselves rather than against socialism. There will be room for smaller parties to make their move. Switzerland, come on, we need to reunite. So this is the information about the occupation of Savoy. Let's read it. In 1815, at the Congress of Vienna, Switzerland was given the legal rights to maintain the neutrality of Savoy in exchange for relinquishing all official claims on the region. During the Weltkrieg, as France was falling into syndicalist revolutionaries, the Swiss government found it necessary to send soldiers to protect the region from the chaotic violence of the time. Shortly after, the true French government was exiled to Africa, and Switzerland has maintained her military occupation of the region until the time that France returns to the mainlands to reclaim it. This of course has not sat well with the current government in Paris, which has actively attempted to reclaim the province. We will fulfill our legal mandate. Honestly, I've got a bit different opinion, and I think that we should establish a normal relationships with the Commune of France, since they can attack us and grab even more lands. However, if we give them the region back, the situation will stabilize and everything will be fine with Switzerland. Of course, that's not an easy move, but that's a thing that requires a firm hand to make sure that everything will go fine and to establish a normal relationships with the communards. Before coming back to referendums, we have to solve the economical questions and make sure that pig won't be broken once again. Referendum official languages. Enough political capital has been raised to institute an official referendum today on an important topic to Swiss people. The issue of whether or not to include Romansh as a national language of Switzerland is what to be decided. If voted in, the predominantly Swiss language would join the likes of French, German and Italian among Switzerland's national languages. Should we support this referendum? I would like to hold a moderate campaign to make sure that everything will be fine. So the language referendum succeeded, and the Romansh is now an official language of Switzerland. What a wonderful outcome! The next thing we will do is to promote the Swiss franc to increase the construction speed by 25%. German mark will serve to boost our own economy in the face of this economic crisis. Fair enough. Yeah, celebrating the Swiss National Day. August 1st is the Schweizer Bundesfeier, the anniversary of the signing of the federal character of 1291, and in case of for celebration across the nation. 1291. Wow. Is that Toblerone mountain? Cause it looks like a Toblerone. I love Toblerone chocolate because it is sugary delicious. So the second referendum is gonna be the referendum of the National Protection Act. This referendum presented to the Swiss people details plan to grant greater powers to Swiss police forces to arrest and detain without trial, in interest of maintaining public order and to combat subversive threats in the nation, such as the threats posed by extremist movements in the Normandy region. That will sure make our country more stable. And the third referendum is gonna be the referendum to combat the economic crisis. This referendum presented to Swiss people details plan for the government to introduce sweeping austerity measures to combat the economic crisis caused by the recent collapse of the Berlin Stock Exchange. And what about the previous referendum of the National Protection Act? Let's make the moderate campaigning. The National Protection referendum succeeded. Wonderful. That's really nice. The fourth referendum is gonna be pretty interesting, as it's gonna be the referendum of banning the syndicalist unions. This referendum presented to the Swiss people details plan to ban the formation of and participation in unions or other political organizations that follow the syndicalist manifesto or adhere to stronghold syndicalist beliefs. This measure is designed to curb extremist influence in Switzerland and restore stability in the nation. It sounds a bit authoritarian, but we have to do something to save Swiss democracy from falling into the syndicalism. While what about combating the economic crisis? Moderate campaign, just as usual. Congratulations, the economic referendum has succeeded and the government now has free reign to solve the Black Monday crisis with its new extraordinary powers. Wonderful. So, a new referendum banned the syndicalist unions. It is no secret that syndicalism has been spreading constantly over recent years inside the nation. It shares a large border with the syndicalist Commune of France, and the pains of the Geneva massacre still faster in Normandy. This referendum is an extreme measure to combat this crisis at the root and ban the syndicalist union from the nation entirely. This move is sure to be controversial, especially with the French Commune. Should we support this referendum? Just as usual, I'll make the moderate campaigning. Oh yeah, the 5-year anniversary of the 1932 Geneva strike. That doesn't smell right. The 5th referendum is gonna be the reorganization of the army. This referendum presented to the Swiss people details plan for the reorganization of the army along the German model. Such reorganization would necessitate the invasion of German military advisors and result in temporary disorganization in their military. I think that such a reform will work. Yeah, our stability has dropped to 0 or even below 0. That's not good. What's even more interesting is that the syndicalist union referendum fails. While syndicalists will continue to meet as they have done over the past few years, so even the moderate campaigning didn't help us. People made their choice, they didn't support it, and we agree with it. And right after it, socialist election victory in Normandy. Damn those socialists, they are ruining our democracy. No reconciliation with France. Stop this at once, we have to do something with those rebellions, they are ruining everything that we try to build. Violence in Savoy. The day of the proposed referendum has come and violence runs rampant in Savoy. Swiss military presence in the occupied zone, on high alert on the orders from Bern, has clashed repeatedly with socialist and syndicalist protesters attempting to organize the vote in the area. Dozens have been beaten and bloodied, and the region is in a state of disarray as the military forces and socialist agitators from Normandy clash in the streets. It is only a matter of time before France hears of this commotion. This got out of hand. I really want to get rid of this occupation zone and live just with the regions that are mine, and that's all. Referendum the status of Freemasonry. Sounds interesting. This referendum presented to the Swiss people details plan for the banning of the secret societies such as Freemasonry and other secret politicized gatherings. I don't know what to say about it except telling the fact that I'm not a reptile. I'm not even an AI. I'm just a normal person. Meanwhile, syndicalists claim referendum victory. Days after the violence in Savoy, the Syndicalist Party of Switzerland has declared that the results of the referendum are, and then the region has voted to rejoin the Commune of France. In the case that it's impossible to verify the integrity of the vote, and the socialists who hold the bailouts have not offered to hand anything over to the federal government. Many in Bern doubt the validity of the socialist claim, but it has increasingly seemed like a shouting match between two sides that won't back down. These results are illegal and unverified. It looks like a really strange referendum that no one has agreed. Referendum reorganized the army. It has become clear that the old structure of the Swiss army is no longer fit for the coming years. Previously, the military has relied on a strong reserve of quickly trained volunteers in order to form the backbone of the army when it needed, but the rise of strong professional armies all around Switzerland has made this model seem obsolete. This referendum proposes that we form the army along the German model and create a strong and professional standing force. Should we support this referendum? Moderate campaign just as usual. It's just attracting people to take part in the referendum and nothing more than that. If people don't want to approve something, that's fine. And we all know that is true in Switzerland. Syndicalist subversion at work in Normandy. While the newly elected socialist governments in Normandy have stepped into office, Federal Intelligence Service are reporting that French agents have crossed the border to advise the Romans leftists, whilst a partial mobilization of French border units near Geneva is also said to be underway. The situation is getting too dangerous, and the move to force the socialist government to step down and have new elections in Normandy seems inevitable, even if it means temporary military occupation of the Normandy by the federal army. But with the violence in Savoy agitating the French, the risk of triggering an armed response is high, though, and we cannot assure of the Reichspact's support. In my opinion, we must respect the constitution, even though it can harm us a bit. The Swiss constitution has no exceptions and authoritarian tendencies. On the other hand, the army referendum succeeded, which is pretty good. Meanwhile, the Balkan powder is blowing up once again. And the final referendum is gonna be on the transport of goods. This referendum presented to the Swiss people details plan for the revision of a law that would standardize the transportation of goods and animals on public roads and would limit the transportation in favor of the government's transport. This referendum is surely the least we can worry about today. Socialists are trying to take control over Normandy. Despite the repression conducted by the Federal Army troops and loyal Romans, socialist militias reportedly using French-made heavy weapons and equipment are on the offensive in almost all of the Normandy and Savoy. Main lines of communications with the rest of Switzerland may fall under the secessionist control, as well as most of the region's infrastructure. Geneva State Council is besieged by pro-French militias and exiled socialists are said to have returned from France to form a new and unified socialist government. It also seems that the Federal Army has no control over the Swiss-French border anymore. If only they took Upper Savoy, it would be okay, but owning Normandy is not okay. Their feasible attempts were crushed by the army. Oh, what about the status of Freemasonry? Like always, moderate campaigning. Crisis in Savoy. With the rise in escalations in the Normandy and Savoy regions and France's seeming willingness to intervene in our internal affairs, the situation in Savoy looks grim. It is only a matter of time before the situation spirals out of control. We must prepare for the worst. Hell no. Hell no, man. I don't like it. Meanwhile, the Freemasonry referendum fails. Houston, we've got some huge troubles. Dissent in the Normandy province and the French ultimatum. The French have demanded the return of the province of Savoy. They have fabricated claims of white terror perpetuated by the Swiss Federation, and syndicalist leaders across Switzerland are getting involved. We cannot guarantee that we will have German support if we stand up the syndicalist bastards. In my opinion, the lives of Swiss citizens and the Swiss unity is much more important than disapprove of German and Austrian governments. Yeah, the Swiss Federation accepts the ultimatum. As a result, we've got peace and reconciliation. We have made it through the Savoyard crisis with no Swiss blood being shed. We have realized that violence is not always the answer, and maintaining our neutrality in the face of conflict is what makes us strong. We can move forward from this crisis as a newer and stronger nation, and also without any syndicalists in Savoy in their presence. On the other hand, we also saved Normandy from occupation, so that's the best outcome we could have in this situation. Put a like on this video for a neutral Switzerland. However, minus 61% of stability isn't that great. Selection of a general. In terms of peace and stability, the highest attainable rank in the Swiss military is that of the Lieutenant General, although the role is more of a senior colonel than a general. Only in times of great need or looming military conflict is a man promoted to the rank of general in order to lead the defense of the nation. Now that we have been thrust into a time of great crisis, it's time for us to select a general to lead the command of our armed forces. It's time to choose. So here is our new general, Henry Gussein. First of all, I think that we need to finish this focus through line, and the next focus in it is the diplomatic mission to the Commune. The source of the crisis in Savoy was our extremely sour relations with our large neighbor, the Commune of France. We have had poor relations for over a decade, and it's time for this era of rivalry to end. We will send a diplomatic mission to Paris to try and hammer out a diplomatic solution to our confrontations and try and befriend France rather than fight them. In my opinion, it's a great attempt to stabilize our relationships. Finally, the memories fade and we are a united nation once again. With the bloodless resolution of the crisis in Savoy, syndicalist agitations within the borders of our nation have faded, old grudges have begun to be forgotten, and a new period of unity is dawning. Those who remain as syndicalist supporters have mostly begun resorting to the more peaceable forms of political activism, and the political tension that once gripped the country is no more. We are brothers. We are the people of our great country. I'm glad that syndicalists and radical socialists are shifting more to the social democrats. That's awesome. Diplomatic mission to the Commune. Now that the crisis in Haiti Savoy has passed without bloodshed, there are many who have seen the extreme dangers of having an unfriendly power such as the Commune of France right on our border. The federal government has decided that the only way to rectify this situation is to improve bilateral relations between ourselves and the French. And diplomatic mission has been sent to the Commune to attempt to defuse the hostiles. Let us try to attempt to build a good relationships with communards. Embrace our neutrality. Hell yeah, let's do it! The Swiss people are known far and wide as people who value the strengths of neutrality. Having survived the Savoy crisis without surrendering our values, we have proven that neutrality is a virtue. We should embrace this philosophy across the nation. I love the philosophy of neutrality. I love the philosophy of peace and freedom. The peaceful life is the best possible life. The French demand concessions. After some initial negotiations, the French have come to us with an offer. They will negotiate in good faith, but any negotiations must be preceded by an agreement on the economic concessions. Any trade deal we sign with the French will be required to assist them more than it assists us. How we should respond? Well, I think we should better accept it. The nature of our cooperation? After agreeing to the initial French demands, the ball is now in our court. Rather than simply restoring relations, it is possible that Switzerland and France can work together and create a relationship that will benefit us both. What sort of relationship should we pursue? I'm thinking about an economic cooperation, as technological and political isn't the best one in our case. Yep, economic cooperation. And as a result, we got a successful negotiations. Despite the political and military differences between ourselves and the French Commune, the negotiations have gone a long way towards restoring normal relations. Hopefully this negotiated peace will last. The political freeze is over. I guess that Switzerland is cooking now. Now we can surely consume the fruits of neutrality, and we will do so even after the start of the Second Weltkrieg. The beacon of peace, stability and prosperity. That's who we are. Switzerland has been through a series of tough trials and society-shattering crises, but has stood tall through all of them. Even as nations around us fight and squabble over their totalitarian empires, we stand tall in the middle of Europe as a burning beacon of peace and prosperity in the middle of the storm. Finally, we are gaining even more benefits out of it, plus 30% of stability and plus 300 political power. After finishing the main focus through line, now we can fully focus on economic development of Switzerland. And first of all, let's get some, civilian factories. We will increase the construction speed by 30%. Thanks to the new laws, Switzerland will have even more natural resources discovered on its land, meaning that we will become even more independent from German and Austrian economics, and also we will be creating lots of new workplaces in our country. Sounds like a good self-investment. In my opinion, establishing a good relationships with the Third International was the right decision, since Spain, Ireland and Norway, all of them have joined the Third International. And situation isn't going so well for the Reichspakt, since Latvia and Estonia have joined the Moscow Accord and now they are surrounded with enemies. So it's time to subsidize the steel factories and gain one more civilian factory and 24 steel in eastern Switzerland. Self-sufficiency is the thing that we need, since we're surrounded with big countries and bad things can happen at any time. So we can't trust anyone and we can rely only on ourselves. We are winning the cultivation battle and gaining 2 civilian factories in Swiss Plateau. Switzerland is not a nation blessed with an abundance of natural resources. For centuries, Swiss farmers have fought a battle against the harsh mountain climates to grow enough crops to feed the nation. Now that war looms on the horizon, we must subsidize these farmers to make Switzerland self-sufficient. We are making everything for our beloved country. The world is now blowing up with its wars on the Middle East, in South Africa, the Second American Civil War, the war in South America, and the Chinese conflict in which the Vientiane government has captured Beijing. Everything is happening right now. But you know what is happening in Europe? We are subsidizing our farmers, our industry, and living a good, peaceful life, while Italians on the south are fighting for I don't know what. Here comes even more civilian factories, plus 3 civilian factories are searching a single focus in our focus through line, striving for economic self-sufficiency. And now it's time to organize the import substitution. We will do everything on our own, and we will do everything we can to find oil in Switzerland to sustain our airplanes, our trucks, everything. It is some kind of a black spot on the map of Europe, but in a good way. Oh, this year we will hold a new election, and I hope that the ruling party is going to win it, and we are going to form a new coalition, a broad coalition, uniting different political parties in one. Finally, we will remove all the effects of the Black Monday, which grants us construction speed minus 25%. Our peak will be filled with money. Nice. Promotion of the Swiss franc has begun boosting our economy, but the government is still heavily in debt. We must turn to the people in order to support the government in the face of war. Yes, yes, and yes. You need to bring your money to the peak. If you want to see that I'm doing, well, I have constructed lots of civilian factories, and at the same time I'm building the final infrastructure in eastern Switzerland, so now it is gonna be level 5 all across the country. There won't be any more problems with transportation in Switzerland. And the next step is of course going to be fill the gold reserves. I like gold, especially ones that you find in Minecraft. Finally, after 3 years of step-by-step policies, we have reached the Swiss miracle. A combination of strong economic policies, a healthy bank stocked with gold, and dash of luck have combined to burst an economic boom, the likes of which Switzerland has never seen. Dubbed the Swiss miracle, this part of economic growth is exactly what we need to advance our place in the world's hierarchy. The 1939 Swiss federal elections. The time has come again for the people of Switzerland to vote and decide which party will seize the majority in the National Council. Thanks to the Swiss miracle and solving all the problems of the Black Monday, the elections are won, of course, by the Rising Demokratische Party, also known as the FDP, or Market Liberals. And on 11th of April 1940, the Russian state has declared the war on the German Empire, which means that the Second Weltkrieg has officially started. Lots of people are going to die in this conflict, but the great powers doesn't care about it. Russia invades the Reichspakt. And now it's time to launch our mission, the Red Cross. The Second Weltkrieg has begun, and the Red Cross, based in Geneva, has begun to organize to respond to the predicted casualties. The Red Cross will help both sides in the war, and surely countless lives will be saved by their efforts. In the last war, Red Cross societies delivered tens of millions of letters and parcels, sent over millions of francs in aid, facilitated the transfer of hundreds of thousands of prisoners, and saved countless lives. Let us hope that they will not need to do as much in this war. War is hell once again. And of course, in a few weeks, the Comune of France declared the war on the German Empire. Germans are now in a huge trouble. The war is happening all around us, but we don't care about it since we're living a peaceful life. Failure of the Halifax Conference. Which probably means that Reichspakt and Entente are going to lose this war, since they didn't cooperate. Now we do look like a real stronghold that no one and nothing can break, since the entire country is defended by Swiss forces. In August 1940, the United States of the Greater Austria has joined the Reichspakt, which means that we've got a new member of the war. I'm sure that Austrians will help to stabilize the eastern front line and to save Ukraine from the collapse, just like Lithuania, Riga, and the Belarusian People's Republic. On the other hand, the front line came closer to the Reichspakt since Albania, Serbia, and Romania, all of them have joined the Moscow Accord, which means that now they've got some huge troubles on the south, from Montenegro to Latvia. And don't forget about Sweden and Finland. So we have entirely searched the second focus through line which was dedicated to a broken pig and the Black Monday, and now we are moving to our third focus storyline, which is gonna be dedicated to the Swiss army. The national spirit of Switzerland focuses on a strong defense in the face of a foreign invasion. The Swiss people do not fight for imperialist ambitions, but to defend their neighborhoods and their homes. While situation on the east is getting better for the Reichspakt and the United States of Greater Austria, since they are reclaiming lots of territories and they are near the Bucharest, while the situation on the west isn't so great since France has broken the front line, defeated Belgium, the Netherlands, and also the Union of Britain had made a naval invasion to Copenhagen, thus capitulating Denmark, and now they are moving straight forward to Stockholm. Another reason to create such a video is to show you how millions of people are dying during the wars and how the world is changing while the wars are going. However, Switzerland, it stays the same and changes only in a better way. We are also rearming and preparing for war, but that's like preparing for the worst, for the invasion from west, from the north, from the south or from the east. However, I don't think that anyone will try to invade us since, take a look at what am I doing in Switzerland. Yeah, the whole country is gonna be a huge bunker. Dude, we're like hedgehog. No one can bite us. So between two different war plans we have in Switzerland, I prefer the Gusain plan, primarily because it concentrates on infantry equipment and infantry forces, the base of Swiss state. Lieutenant Colonel Henry Gusain has put forth a plan to defend the nation that involves a stoic dependence and continued usage of the prepared fallback lines and fortress that would ensure a campaign of guerrilla warfare throughout our nation. Accepting his plan would mean moving forward with a plan to fight a purely defensive war. That's exactly what we want. At difficult times creates a strong man. Unofficially, we support Germans and Austrians in this war since they are closer to us ideologically, and most of Swiss citizens are Germans, ethnic Germans. And also, yet another reason to support them is the fact that Germans aren't aggressors in this war. They are defending from communards and Russians. Russians are aggressors. Switzerland doesn't support such a move. Savinkov. Gathering the army. Switzerland has maintained its neutrality in conflict for hundreds of years. We are a people that hold fast to our values of neutrality and peace. But now we find ourselves embroiled in a conflict for our very survival. The men are scared and many aren't sure if they are capable of fighting at all. Seeing this weakness among the soldiers, Henry Gusain has decided to hold a large rally on the Rüti, the historic location of the Rütlich War of 1291. All Swiss officers are to be in attendance, and the speech is to be made to inspire Swiss people across the nation. We await Gusain's speech. A serious mustache man is right about everything. Gusain's speech. It was a wonderful sunny day when Henry Gusain made his speech not only to all the soldiers and officers in attendance, but to the whole of Switzerland. In his speech, he praised the strength and unity of the Swiss people and promised that victory was not only attainable but assured. As Gusain finished giving his lengthy and beautifully worded speech, he was greeted with thunderous applause from all in attendance. This will surely go in Swiss history as a historic event. Congratulations, General Gusain. At this point, the losses in the Second Weltkrieg in the war between Communards and Ententes together with the Reichspakt without Russians is 6.6 million of people in the side of Entente and the Reichspakt and 5 million of people on the side of the Communards, which means that over 12 million of people died for what? For so-called greatness and imperialist ambitions? The total casualties of the Second Weltkrieg is almost 30 million people. It's like the entire population of Ukraine in 1930s. Wait, Vorarlberg, the facts. With our neighbor Austria on the verge of complete collapse in their ongoing war, some of its citizens have taken their futures into their own hands. The Bundesland on Vorarlberg, right on our eastern border with Austria, has held a public referendum to leave Austria behind and seek union with Switzerland. Over 80% of voters agreed with the proposal, and the local authorities have wasted no time pleading their case with us, hoping to avoid whatever cruel peace awaits them if Austria were to fall in their current war. The citizens of Vorarlberg are suddenly willing, should we accept this new member of the Swiss state. You know what, even in such a catastrophic situation, we won't support it. It's too risky and it is a part of the Austrian Empire, not of the Switzerland. Furthermore, the referendum wasn't supported by the United States of Greater Austria and wasn't agreed with them, so we have no right to annex them. Liechtenstein asks for protection. Oh, that looks interesting. We have just received a diplomatic envoy from the Principality of Liechtenstein. With the fall of Austrian Empire, they are asking for our protection. The Principality of Liechtenstein is the final remnant of the Holy Roman Empire, and due to its unique geographic location, has survived as a microstate and as an absolute monarchy until now. Since 1818, they have been under the protection of Austria, first through the German Confederation and later through bilateral treaties. Now, since Austria is defeated, Liechtenstein has asked for our protection. What is our reply? Of course we would be able to help them, as they are our friendly state. So Germany was divided between communards and Russians have annexed the eastern part, and Third International has annexed the western part. What's even more interesting is the fact that we are entirely surrounded with communards, so establishing a diplomatic relationships with Commune of France and getting a great relationship was a right decision. Otherwise, we won't survive this war. Oh my god! Sardinia has caused the beginning of the third Weltkrieg. The second Weltkrieg has just ended up, and now we see the third one. Wow. Remember that this gameplay isn't scripted, and it's my first attempt playing as Switzerland, and we got this. Oh my god. Just in a few weeks, it has happened. Paris against Moscow. I'm really worried about the future of Europe. Yo boys, check this out, what a great man is ruling Middle Africa, or also known as Provisional Government of Germany. That guy can come back Germany to the mainland. That guy can rule Germany to the greatness. George von Kraut. He wears an amazing hat and has a fantastic German mustache. The 1943 Swiss federal elections, and of course, Freien Demokratische Party wins it. Since we didn't bring war to the Switzerland, we have stabilized it and built a great Switzerland and prosperous Switzerland. Can you call it a bad ruling party when you see this, or even this? In January 1944, I've got to the point where I've got nothing to build. My country is developed on 200%. Some bad news are coming from Italy, as the Socialist Republic has claimed Ticino. It is all happening because bald, stupid man is ruling this great country. He's totally ruining it. Unexpectedly, things are going pretty bad for the Russian state, since Sankov is losing it. He has lost Eastern Europe, Baltic states, half of Ukraine, and the whole Balkans, so only Hungary has left as its current ally. Yeah, the situation is catastrophic both for Moscow Accord and for the Entente. We surely made the right decision to stay neutral and give the Upper Savoy back to communards. Technically, except for the Ottoman Empire, we are gonna be the last capitalist country in Europe. Yeah, this world is insane. In March 1945, we have successfully completed the entire Swiss focus tree line, so now we will focus on construction engineering. Why? I don't know. That's the only thing we can do properly at this moment. Well, the fall of Yekaterinburg. The end appears near for the Russians. Wait, Karl Marx? Are you alive? Are you from Poland? Now I can say for sure that Switzerland is the last bastion of capitalism in Europe, since 95 or even 99% of it is now controlled by the Third International. And since we're now going pretty bad for the Entente, the 1947 Swiss federal elections, and of course, because of the entire stability in our country, the rising Democratic Party wins it. It looks like an authoritarian regime, but I prefer to call it a stable one. Stability means everything to us, even in the face of political parties. So, 12 years have gone since we chose the path of total or iron neutrality. Many things have happened during this time. We've seen the establishing of the Russian state and then its collapse, we've seen the rise of the German Empire and its collapse, we've seen the birth of the Third International and its rise. But one thing in Europe, one state has never changed, and it is the Swiss state. While 99% of the Europe is now controlled by France or Britain, Switzerland stays neutral as the last neutral state in Europe. Since not even Ottomans are neutral because of their alliance and their wars against Ethiopians and Middle Eastern states. We, Switzerland, looks like a black spot on the map of Europe, like a place that saved its atmosphere from 1936, the last place in Europe. What's even more interesting is that I built everything I could. You can actually see that right now on your screens. And I'm not kidding, I've built everything that I could. And I have also searched everything that I could. We've got 92% of stability, 100% war support, and almost 5 million of people living in Switzerland. And of course, a powerful army that none of the European armies can crush. Not even a socialist Europe can destroy Switzerland, and we saved our neutrality no matter what, no matter the pressure we received from other countries, and no matter the political situation that surrounded us, and gave us a pretty interesting abilities, like annexing Vorarlberg. However, we didn't betray our principles and saved our neutrality, which caused the prosperity of Switzerland. Market liberals and our party did everything to make our state great once again. I hope that more and more people will learn the example of Switzerland, will learn its lesson, because the whole planet needs to live in peace and prosperity.